Hi, I'm Paul Rudolph, and you're watching a podcast where nostalgia comes alive. It's Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. Roll it!
Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. Join Jake and his friends on a journey through pop culture of the past, where they interview professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and so much more. Who will they be chatting with today? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'll be here with us. Thank you for joining. As always, I'm your host, Jake Duffenball. With me today, sorry, our co-host, Quick B, and Matt Bingle. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Doing good. Hi, everybody. How are you, Jake?
Doing great, Matt. Thank you for asking. What do we have for today?
Glad you're with us, folks. Our guest today is a producer and director. He started with Sesame Street as a production secretary in 2003 and has been there mainly as some sort of producer over the last over 20 years, associate, full, and senior. From 2018 to last year, 2023, he was executive producer. He's now a director for Sesame Street. More recently, though, he's a director for the YouTube series The Pigeon Explains, which is based off of the books by Mo Willems and features some of our previous guests, Bradley Freeman Jr. and Kathleen Kim, among others. Please welcome Ben Lehmann. Ben, welcome. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And thank you for that wonderful intro.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you very much. We're delighted to have you here. So to kick this off,
Likewise.
even though I kind of introduced you a little bit, could you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm a writer, producer, director. I've been in the kid space for over 20 years and really got my start at Sesame Street. I originally joined Sesame Workshop as an assistant in the international department. You may know they do a lot of co-productions around the world. And so I was lucky enough to come in. I had worked overseas a little bit in my career before that. I had started my career as a camera person, really, before getting into the producing ranks. And so I worked for the person that oversaw the international co-productions. That person, Louis Bernstein, became executive producer of Sesame Street in 2001 and brought me along as a production assistant. And I am thrilled to say that I have been involved with Sesame Street and have worked on every season of Sesame Street since season 34. And as you all probably know, season 54 is on the air right now. And season 55, we just wrapped production in April. So it's just been a fantastic job. And I'll give you the nugget size. I started as a PA. I became an associate producer, senior producer. I started working as an associate director in the control room and then a full director over those years. And most recently was EP and then went back to freelancing a couple of years ago. And I'm thrilled to still work on Sesame Street. It's where my heart is. But I'm also excited to work on other projects along the way. So that's a little bit about me.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Of course. So, what was your childhood like and how did you grow up?
So this may be interesting to you guys. Although my parents are American and I was born in the US, I grew up in France. And I did not have Sesame Street as a kid, although there was, one of the very first international co-productions was in France called Rue Sesame. And that was, I believe, in 1971, something like that. But anyway, I grew up with The Muppet Show because The Muppet Show was huge in France, even though I saw it in French, but a lot of the singers and musical acts were in English, of course. So I was a big Muppet enthusiast that way, but did not actually have Sesame Street in my childhood, and then discovered the show as an adult and really loved it. And as I said, like I had a career kind of in independent film. I started in music videos really, but in independent film. And when I came to Sesame Workshop, I was just like, oh, wow, you can actually make a show that matters so much to so many people. The kids are getting something out of it. And it just really opened my eyes to like, I don't need to just, it's nice to make a living, but you also want to work on stuff that matters.
Absolutely. So I'm kind of curious, did you always want to have a career in television, like as a producer and so on?
So when I was in high school, I thought I wanted to be an artist. And
Ah,
so I was into drawing and painting, and I went to art school originally. And then I don't know, something hit me, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to make a living as a painter. I'm having a hard time visualizing that. And so I decided to just get a BA in film history because I was a huge film buff, and French literature because I love French books and reading. And then as a during the summer, while I was still a student, I went to Colorado University in Boulder, and I would spend the summer in Los Angeles, and I started working as a production assistant in LA, mostly doing music videos at the time.
nice, nice. So I know you kind of touched base on it a little bit just a moment ago, but of course you're best known for your many different contributions to Sesame Street. I guess kind of going back to the beginning, like how did you like first begin working for them?
Yeah, I mean, so I was lucky because I admired the show from like another department within Sesame Workshop and would talk to people and try to learn as much as I could. And then this person I worked for became executive producer and brought me along. So I really got to learn the show from the ground up. Sesame Street is interestingly, it's a multi-camera show. We still shoot it with at least three cameras going, sometimes more. We do a live cut in the control room. And all of my experience to that point was with single camera. And I didn't know the art of puppetry where the performer needs to have a monitor so they can see what the camera sees and what that collaboration was like. But since I started as a production assistant and, I was production secretary, then PA, then I would do like the script continuity notes in the control room. I just really learned the show from the ground up and learned, puppetry is like no other form of television, really, because it's just so different and unique. And so I was really lucky to get to learn it from the ground up.
Nice, nice.
Very cool. So early on in your career with Sesame Street, you co-produced the home video Abby in Wonderland I guess right around the time Abby was first introduced. What was it like working on that?
Oh, it was that. Oh my God, that show brings back a lot of memories. So it was wonderful. So yeah, I was there when Abby was introduced, and there was this notion that like, but I mean, it's Cookie Monster, it's Big Bird, it's the Count, it's Bert and Ernie, and Elmo was huge, but it was a lot of boy characters, right? And so we had this one exec at the workshop that was like, we need more female representation on the show. And so I was there when the conversations were going on with Henson about the design and how to introduce her and all that stuff. But Abby in Wonderland was this beautiful, elaborate, retelling of the Alice in Wonderland story with Abby at the center, but we had like Cookie Monster was a Cheshire cat, right? And so we shot it. They built it doesn't take place on Sesame Street. It takes place, I think it starts on Sesame Street, right? And then she falls down the hole.
Yep.
But
Oh
Right.
so
yeah.
we built these beautiful sets. Kevin Clash was the director of the home
Yeah,
video.
I love
Oh, I
Kevin.
love
He's
Kevin.
amazing.
Kevin's
Yeah,
great.
he's awesome. Very,
Yes.
like such a genius but very demanding too. And so it was really a huge, ambitious project. And I do remember one night we shot until 3 a.m. And
Oh
it's
boy.
a funny story. The
Wow.
stage, the stage manager at the time, he had another job the next morning at 7. So at 3 a.m., he said, I have to leave. I just have to because I have to go home and take a shower and be at this other job in the morning. So the assistant director in the control room, who's a guy named Ken Diego, wonderful,
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
You guys may know him. Um,
Mhm.
he had to go out to the floor to become the stage manager. And then I had to step into Ken's seat in the control room and become the assistant director, which was at the time not a role that I knew. And so, they made it easy for me. And luckily Kevin has a style of shooting where, his shots are so bespoke, you have time to to plan everything out. But it was a wild experience, really, really wild.
That's
That's
great.
wonderful. Such a great video. And I mean, like, Leslie Claire Rudolph, what she's doing for Abby. Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my gosh. Yeah.
she's
She's
the most
amazing.
down to earth
She's amazing.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Such an amazing
sweetest
performer.
people ever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
She's I'm sure you've
Exactly.
seen some of her other work outside of
oh, for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
absolutely.
stuff.
Johnny and the Sprites, Splash and Bubbles, Animal
Muppets
Jam, like all
Mayhem
these,
recently.
yeah, Muppets Mayhem recently, yeah, all these wonderful projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you
Yeah.
ever been to, sorry, now I'm taking us off track, but have you
That's
ever
okay.
been to cabaret shows? Like
Tony for
for,
cabaret shows, no, but
No,
I've seen
I've
clips of them. They're
I've
just
yeah, I've
yeah,
seen
yeah,
clips. I've
outstanding.
seen them.
never
Oh
been
my
to one of
goodness.
those, but
you
would
should,
love to.
Oh,
yeah,
that'd be
you're all
great.
New York based or East
Oh,
Coast?
yeah,
No.
I'm on
East
the
Coast.
we're on
Yeah,
the
we're on
East
East
Coast.
Coast.
We're all on the East Coast.
I'm in Massachusetts, and Jake and Matt are in different parts of Maryland.
Yep.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, if you ever
Yes,
come up to New York when she's doing one, you should go. Run.
for
Don't
sure.
walk. Yeah.
For sure.
Been
Yeah.
to
Sure.
New York, but would love to go back.
For
Yeah.
sure. So,
Yeah, because he went to Sesame Musical
Yep.
in New York.
During its
Oh,
So
you
during
did?
its
Oh, fun.
original run, it was amazing. So fun.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great show. Great show.
Really was.
absolutely. So, this is kind of an interesting question. It may be tough to answer, but do you have any like favorite like Sesame Street Muppets?
I mean, I'm like a Cookie Monster guy all the way through. Like, I just love the purity of Cookie Monster's vision of,
Yeah.
I will get this cookie and I will eat it. And honestly, like to me, that's the success of Sesame Street, right? It's these characters that are so well defined and you know what their motivation is, right? As soon as
Oh,
you
for sure.
turn on the TV. And so I love Cookie Monster, but I love so many different characters, and I got to do this uh our variety show, the Not Too Late Show with Elmo, and I love
Oh,
Elmo.
yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah.
sweet,
Yeah.
loving,
yeah,
and anybody will open up to Elmo, and then I have a soft spot for
Ron
Snuffy
Dylan.
because I think
Oh, yeah,
Snuffy
Snuffy. Yeah, love
Snuffy,
Snuffy.
yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
amazing.
Marty.
Yeah,
Marty's the best.
Marty's.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge Martin Robinson fan.
Yes, we are too.
Yes. We are too.
Who,
So,
who doesn't?
I
I
know,
know.
yeah. Who
I
isn't?
know.
Yeah. So, speaking of Elmo, you got to produce a lot of the segments that were featured on the Elmo segments, Elmo's World, and Elmo the Musical. What was working on those like?
It was really interesting. I mean, Elmo the Musical, so I started during the initial run of Elmo's World when it was a longer segment that was anywhere from 12 to 18 minutes, and it
Right.
had, like the baby and Mr. Noodle and Dorothy in her bowl. And that was a really interesting show because at the original time when they first made it, like in the late 90s, I guess they started it. Technologically, it was very demanding. The backgrounds were all, graphics and a lot of animation was used to move some of the characters around. So that was really, really fascinating. I was part of the team that rebooted Elmo's World as a 5-minute format.
Right. Yeah.
And we had to, it's like you go from 15 minutes to 5 minutes. It's what are you going to do? And we honed in on it's Elmo's World. It's his imagination. There's something about that look of the drawn, chalky feel of the backgrounds that's really important. And then Mr. Noodle. And we all just loved Mr. Noodle and thought that was so funny. So it was really, it was a much pared down version of it. But really, really a fun show that I love. And then Elmo the Musical, that was really an innovative show because it was all the backgrounds were animated and some of the characters are actually 3D animation characters that are not puppeteered. And so, it would be for the performers, you're playing to someone who isn't there and there's issues of eye line and staging and where to place everybody. But Elmo the Musical it just was so fun. Because it's all song, right? I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
you had Belinda Ward on, right? And she talked about
Yes.
Les
Yes,
Yes.
love
Miserables.
Belinda. She's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a really, really fun show too. Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of animation, you also produced the animated segment, Abby's Flying Fairy School. What was it like producing an animated segment compared to live action?
I personally love live action, and that's why I love puppetry and gravitated to it because, it's like doing visual effects, but in camera. You're doing it in real time, and I love the satisfaction of working with a performer and the performers are seeing how you're staging things and blocking it. And so it's a very collaborative process. Animation is super fun and beautiful, but it's a very different process. And as someone, I'm a writer director and a producer, so there's a lot to organize, but it's not the same thrill as being on set with all your friends and putting something together. That said, Abby's Flying Fairy School was really cool. It was the first time I'd ever done 3D animation. It was all CGI. And so it was really interesting designing the characters for that show, to adapt that puppet of Abby into this 3D CGI animated character. That was fascinating. So I love animation, and I think Mecha Builders is super cool.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I was involved with season one of that, but it's I still love puppetry the best. So sorry, that's fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, great segment too. So now, what was it like into producing a Super Grover 2.0?
Super Grover 2, I loved Super Grover 2.0. It's it has a STEM focus and so there's something so lovable about Grover, right? Because he's always wrong, but he always thinks he's right. And no matter what, he is gonna persevere and see it through and make mistake after mistake. And Super Grover was also a format where it was all on blue screen or green screen because Grover's blue, so we had to use green screen. And he basically you know got in all these weird predicaments, like he's in a canoe and he doesn't know how to move it, or he's got to cross a river. And we hired, this was a funny thing, we got one of those movie guys to do the VO at the top of the show, like in a world where, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
really
Yeah,
dramatic.
yeah.
Right.
Super Grover 2.0, because it starts like it looks like Batman and it's going to be an amazing superhero movie. So that was we had a lot of fun with that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you also co-executive produced the animated special, The Monster at the End of This Story, based on the book, The Monster at the End of This Book. Could you kind of talk a bit about that, like adapting something from such a popular Sesame Street book?
Yeah. I mean, that's like, speaking of animation, I think that's the thing I love the most that I've ever worked on that's animated. And obviously, it was a lot of pressure of like, okay, people love this book, don't mess it up. But we had, Chrissy Ferraro was the writer of that script, and she's wonderful. And early on in the process, because we were like, when you read the book, it's so interactive, and there's usually like one person who's turning the page and a kid who's like, no, don't do it. And so it just was, we wanted to get it right. And when we hit on the idea of having a live action hand do the drawings to kind of tie into that interactivity, I think we really hit on something
Oh
there.
yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. So you also got to co-executive produce the wonderful 50th anniversary special. What was getting to work on that like? Because huge milestone. A lot of like the original human cast came back and a lot of guest stars. What was getting to work on that like?
I mean, that was amazing. That was, so that was really my second year as executive producer on the show.
Hmm.
And so I felt a lot of pressure to get it right again. But I also knew right away, so I started on the show at a time when, you know, Bob and Maria and Gordon and Luis were on the show a lot, right? And
Yeah.
Desi and Olamide. And so I wanted to make sure that we would connect back to that rich history of Sesame Street. And, and at the same time, we wanted enough of a story that it didn't just become a clip reel. And so I felt like we did a nice balancing act, but it was really, we shot most of it on Sesame Street, but as you probably noticed, there's a couple of segments that take place in different, when we go to a song and we're trying to say like it's a party on Sesame Street and the song is happening there, but we shot parts of it in Los Angeles as well as at the studio in New York, like that Niles Rodgers song that's in it, that's shot somewhere else. But then when we did the finale on Sesame Street, and we had Itzhak Perlman and Patti LaBelle and Whoopi Goldberg
and Carol
and Carol Spinney is
Carol
there.
Spinney was there.
Yeah,
Fran
and
was even there at the end, I remember. Yeah.
exactly, Fran came in. We had, Nithya, if you ever saw the episodes where Nithya was on the show and
Oh yeah, she played Leela. Yeah. That's
exactly,
right.
played
Yeah.
Leela. She was there. Alameda came back. He was the second Miles. Um, and it was just really, joyful. And we tried to have guest stars that were meaningful to the show, right? So Elvis
Yeah.
Costello and um yeah, just it was so much fun. I mean, it was such a huge, elaborate thing to get all those people in the studio at the same time and make it work, but it was fantastic. And we had that big balloon drop at the end, and we were
Oh
like,
yeah.
"This doesn't work. We don't know if we can do it a second time because we only have so many Mylar balloons."
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
so yeah, no, it was a blast. It was a blast. I love that show. And what was so nice is it went out on HBO, it went out on PBS at the same time. It was just really nice that the show was so welcomed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. So now, aside from producing for Sesame Street, you also directed a number of episodes and specials, including the Magic Wand Chase special. What was that like?
So that's probably my favorite thing I've ever directed ever anywhere. And that was from this wonderful script by Jess Carlton and Ray Langford. And we knew that we wanted to go on location, to be outside because the puppets look so good, right? It's complicated to take the puppets on location because you need monitors and you need all that stuff. But when you can pull it off, it's just wonderful. And so we had this beautiful script from Jess and Ray, and I was a producer on the show simultaneously, so I was able to really be with it from outline stage all the way through and really immerse myself in it. And we cast these kids that were wonderful actors, and we got to go all over New York. We shot in Chinatown, we shot in Brooklyn, we shot in Manhattan. We were a lot of different places, and we also did this wonderful collaboration with a VFX animation house um, that they created those balloons, right? That Abby poofs up at the beginning, and that's the genesis of the story. They get in these balloons, they go off, she loses her wand, and then they spend this whole time trying to find the wand and get back. And so I love that show so much, and I think it's the diversity of locales and looks to it as well, because shooting the puppets in the balloons was kind of tricky because it was all on blue screen, all that stuff came in the post-production, and having them there and making it look real and getting the angles, because the balloons are also themed to each character. So really, yeah, I'm a big fan of that one.
Absolutely. So you've also had the pleasure of writing for the show as well. Do you have any favorite episodes that you wrote?
Yeah, so I did most of my writing for the Not Too Late Show with Elmo, which was
Ah,
our kind of
Mhm.
parody of you know, a talk show, but it was also meant to be like a bedtime routine thing. I've written for the show, a couple of songs. I wrote a song that Jason Derulo did called Dancing is Easy, which is super cute if you want to look that one up. But I also would write frequently in collaboration with our head writer at the time, who's a guy named Ken Scarborough.
oh yeah, we had him on recently. He's awesome.
Oh,
Yep.
I
you did.
love
Cool.
Ken. He's
Yeah.
Yes.
great.
Ken. Yeah. Ken's awesome. Ken's hilarious. So he and I together would write, we had these play moments that would button the stories. And so every year we had kind of a different, like an interstitial that came at the end of the street story to try to reinforce both the curriculum, but the messaging and the takeaway in the street story. And so Ken and I would co-write those a lot. But again, the Not Too Late Show with Elmo, which was a show I developed at the workshop, that's the one that I've written the most on and have written several episodes for that.
Awesome.
Right.
Yeah. Not Too Late Show with Elmo was a wonderful show too. Yeah.
Thank
It
you.
is.
Thank you.
It is. You had mentioned on location episodes. There's one I remember. I feel like it's the most recent one from 2 years ago when Sesame Street goes to the farm. That whole like storyline was
Yeah.
it was really cool because they had gone to Hawaii, I think in 78, Puerto Rico in 79. Um, I think Montana 91,
Yeah.
1991.
A
Like
lot of
it's like it,
places.
it was rare. It's even now, it's still rare to see like the Sesame Muppets on location for the show. But when it happens, it is really, really cool. Just seeing them on location just because it like never happens and it works so beautifully.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, I totally agree. And the farm episodes, those really came out of COVID.
Right. Yeah. Because like
Yeah,
Yeah.
open air, like
Open
I
air,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
exactly,
I remember reading something
exactly.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
the studio was, shut down like that March 2020. We were in production when COVID hit, and we were, up until that Friday, we were like, yeah, we're going in next week. And then people started calling and being like, are you sure? So that Friday before they really like in New York, they shut down. I forget it was like March 20th or something. So it was the Friday
Yeah, something like that.
before, and I had to go to the CEO of the company and be like, "This is not safe. We're not a news organization. We're a kids show, and we think." And of course he agreed right away and was like, "Yeah, you're right. We can't send people to the studio on Monday. We don't know what's going on."
Yeah, because a lot of puppeteers, a lot of, cast members, a lot of crew. So if one gets sick, that's bad.
Exactly. It would have been, yeah, it would have
Yeah.
been terrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, in fact, we were shooting the week before, and I'm still like to this day, I'm like, how did we not all get sick that week? Because we were hearing yeah, it's cool. It's this thing called COVID. It's going around. What is it? We
Yeah.
don't know. Just keep shooting. But then that summer, when, so a lot of the guilds in TV put together this return to work plan, and we signed on to it very early on. And I'm very active in the Producers Guild, and through the Producers Guild, I heard about people who were doing production with COVID testing and protocols, and so reached out to someone, and they had a nurse that knew how to do COVID testing and had the equipment and the tests. And so we did an initial, like a 1 day shoot that was a test. And it was successful. It was a very small crew. And so based on that, we were like, okay, we could do full episodes. And we'd already been developing these farm episodes, but we felt comfortable going out on location and we were still wearing masks, even though we were outside. But
Right.
and the other thing is the puppeteers can stay masked. You can always do the audio after the fact and re-record stuff if it doesn't sound good, but most of the time it sounded fine anyway. So, but I
Yes.
love those farm episodes too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, those are
Yeah.
great.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So now, who are some of your favorite celebrity guests you had the chance to work with over the years?
And this
Um,
could apply to, I guess, both Sesame Street and Not Too Late Show, because Not Too Late Show
Yeah.
also had a lot of celebrities too.
yeah, no,
Hmm.
for sure, for sure. So many great ones. I mean, like I'm a huge Elvis Costello fan, so I was thrilled when he came on and did this original it was like a parody of Red Shoes called Red Twos.
Hmm.
Joey Mazzarino wrote that one.
Oh yeah, Joey.
Joey,
Joey,
Yeah,
Shout
great.
out,
another one of the
shout
Yes.
out to
greats.
he's
Yeah.
Joey.
amazing.
And then when he came for the 50th anniversary special, we did It's Not Easy Being Green with
Yes.
Kermit
With
and Matt
Kermit.
was and they actually sang that live, which is very unusual. Most of the time we pre-record songs and I mean it's the actual person singing, but it's all playback and all that stuff. So I love him. I love so many of the comedians we've had on over the years. We had Jason Sudeikis on the Not Too Late Show, and he was hilarious. And I've gotten to, direct Jimmy Fallon, which was super fun.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Oh,
I'm a
it's
big,
great.
I've had Casey Musgraves on both Sesame Street and the Not Too Late Show, and have subsequently become a fan of her music. You know, Questlove comes to mind. He's awesome. So many great ones, and then a couple of years ago, got to direct Dr. Jill Biden, which
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
which
that's
was
right.
so
Yeah.
intense, because they send the Secret Service. You have to evacuate. Everybody has to get cleared. Anybody who's going to be in the building has to be cleared. And then on the day of, the Secret Service comes in and they do a sweep and they have dogs and everybody gets wanded before coming back in. And then, you're working and you're directing, but there's like Secret Service guys all around you. And don't move too quickly with your script to be really cool.
Yeah.
So, and I was there when Michelle Obama came and Hillary Clinton as well. So not to show my age, but I've it's amazing. Like the show just draws so many people
Oh
that
yeah.
you know want to be associated, have a huge, their own fandom over it because of being kids. And so anyway, yeah, a lot of really cool celebrities over the years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You also produced some of the Sesame Street outreach projects as well. Could you kind of talk a bit about those?
Yeah, so for listeners who don't know or viewers who don't already know, the outreach projects target very specific, issues that are really tough, like food insecurity or autism or, poverty, things that aren't necessarily easy to weave into the regular show, but that Sesame Workshop is dedicated to talking about. So I've been involved with a lot of different outreach. They also do a ton of work for military families, which
Oh yeah, done a
very
lot of
proud of
those.
that work.
Yes.
I got to go to the Pentagon once and do these short videos with Elmo and Rosita and Abby. And
Oh,
yeah,
Oh,
and I met
nice.
the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the time, who was this general named Martin Dempsey, and got to meet the heads of each department. And it was right around the time of Afghanistan. I mean, it was intense. And you go in and you give up, you use their cameras. They have their own studio in there. So you go in, you give up your phone, you give up everything, and you just go in and you work with them. And then at the end of the day, they meet you. The way the Pentagon works is each Pentagon, as you move in, becomes higher and higher security. So they pull you back out and they give you the media on your drives and you go on your way. But anyway, that was just an anecdote about working there. But I have done some of the, longer outreach videos too that I think the most recent one I did was about loss and how to grieve or how to deal with the loss of a parent or a close person. And some of the stuff that I loved the most was the introduction of Julia, our character who's on the autism
Yes.
spectrum, and
Yes.
what a wonderful character that is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, from
Absolutely.
Stacey Gordon. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Stacey Gordon does such a
Stacey,
wonderful job with Julia.
she does.
Absolutely.
She does. And by the way, that was a really interesting casting process, because we wanted to have someone, we didn't want someone to like portray an autistic person that didn't have personal experience with it. So we auditioned people who were on the spectrum or people who had personal family connection. And obviously, as you probably know, her son is on the spectrum, and she was just fantastic. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
It's wonderful seeing autism represented in this way. It really is, especially with a character
Absolutely.
like Julia.
yeah,
For sure. Yeah.
yeah.
So, moving on from Sesame Street, you were also an executive producer and director for the Apple TV Plus series Helpsters, which also featured some of the Sesame Muppet performers. What was working on that show like?
That was so much fun. It was just a blast over, we did 40 episodes. And so basically, Tim McEwen, who is the show creator and a longtime creative collaborator of mine, that's where I met him, was on Helpsters. And what happened is Apple TV was launching, they didn't have Apple TV yet. It was like a new thing. And they approached the workshop and we're like, we want to do something. We want to do something with Muppets with you guys, and go find something for us. And so we engaged in this long process of taking pitches and having brainstorming sessions. And ultimately, Tim's concept for Helpsters was the one that bubbled up to the top. And I very quickly developed an amazing working relationship with him, and he had never worked with puppets before. So I became an executive producer on the show so that I could help him, work through like what are the implications of working with puppets, and what he had done a lot of animation. He had done plenty of live action. He also created Odd Squad, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
So amazing, super creative guy. And we just really hit it off, and we went to Monkey Boys for
Oh
the
yeah.
design and creation.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Monkey
those
Boys.
guys.
Yeah, we've had the Monkey Boys
Yeah.
people on too. Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
awesome.
those
Yeah.
puppets are beautiful.
Oh,
They
thank
are.
yeah,
Yes.
So it was because I knew Mark and Michael like through puppet workshops that we used to do at the workshop from over the years, and we wanted to explore working with them, and they gave these amazing designs. And then we held this huge casting call to identify the puppeteers. And as you know, Stephanie DeBruzzo plays
My
Puppy,
gosh.
I love
Lee.
Stephanie.
Martin Robinson plays Mr. Pym.
Yes.
Uh, Tim
Tim
Gas.
Gass,
Tim
Jen
Gas,
Dagger.
yeah.
Barnhart,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Jen Barnhart was our
Wonderful
puppet
people.
captain. Early on, Jen helped me.
Kathy Kim
Yeah,
too.
Was on
Kathy
there.
Kim is on it. And Ingrid
Such wonderful
Hansen
people.
plays Hart, the walk around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ingrid, yeah.
Yeah. Ingrid has this, by the way, a couple of months ago, I went to see her puppet show. She has a show that's a one-woman show that she does. And she basically she uses her fingers and she puts like this baby head on it. And it's so weird. You guys would love it. It's the best. And she has like a little camera on a tabletop, and it's projected in the theater, and it's so funny. She does so much funny stuff. She is like one hilarious individual.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And eventually, we actually are speaking with her.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
She's gonna do some really funny stuff for you guys.
I'm sure she will, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're in for a treat for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's
Very much
wonderful.
looking forward
Helpsters was
to it.
fantastic. We did the first season was 26 episodes, and it was one of Apple's first shows, so we were all learning to work with this new network, and they were, very involved and wanted the show to be perfect because it was one of their first shows, and it just was an amazing experience. And early on, Tim was like, puppets outdoors, that is like one of the guiding lights of this show. And so every episode, as you probably know, starts in the shop with some clueless human guest star that is like, I'm taking a hike, but I don't know how to do that. And then they help that person, organize a hike, bring a sandwich, get some water, get some good walking shoes. And so we go on location for every episode. And boy, that first season we were shooting in New York over the summer, and we started in April, but we went all the way through the summer, and it was amazing. We had a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. That's so
Yeah.
wonderful. So, recently you directed the web series, The Pigeon Explains, based on the best-selling books by Mo Williams. What's that like?
Well, that's amazing. I'm so lucky to work on that show, and as you said, Brad Freeman is the Pigeon.
Yes. Oh, he's doing such an amazing job. And
Yes.
Kathy and Rose Bar,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathy
great
and
people.
Rose and Henson designed the puppet. Sierra, now I'm not going to remember her last name, but Sierra was the designer of the puppet, or the builder. And did just a beautiful job. But it's like with any puppet, when it's a brand new puppet, there's like a learning curve, and is it going to work? And maybe Brad even talked about this, but he has pretty big hands. And so I think one of the early versions, before they'd even cast the performer, the head was too small, and it was, he couldn't really get his hand, so they had to build a new one that was bigger. But that's been a really fun process. The show is just very simple. Like it's basically the Pigeon explains a kid skill like brushing your teeth, but of course the pigeon is
Yes.
clueless. He doesn't know how to brush his teeth. He doesn't even have teeth. And then
Right.
a kid comes on
Yeah.
and a kid explains, and and I think that's so kid friendly, right? When it's like the stand-in adult who is the pigeon doesn't know what he's doing, but the kid knows enough to explain it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so that show, there's new episodes coming out on YouTube,
Every Friday.
yes, every Friday.
Every Friday.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful
Yeah,
show.
it really is.
I love it very much. It's just so great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really funny, right?
I love Bradley's performance as the pigeon.
Yes.
How confusing
Such
he's
a
like,
great
hubba,
guy.
hubba, what? Like
Yeah.
it's just like
I know.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the way like how he developed, how the way the pigeon like sounded, where like it's kind of his voice, but like a little bit like a little crazy type of.
yeah.
I mean, you can
voice.
even see it like when he, at the end when he was like, "That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen."
Yeah.
He's so big. He's screaming. And sometimes the kids are like, it's funny because they're just kind of like surprised by how big he goes. And I think that the magic of his performance is, he's like, yeah, he's a little manic, he's a little big and intense, but sometimes he does something so unexpected, you're taken by surprise.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
an awesome performer.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole show's just amazing. So
Yeah.
you also executive
Mo
produced.
Williams Workshop YouTube channel to check
Yes.
that out to those who haven't.
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it really is. It's a great show.
Not a paid advertisement.
Right.
Just saying that for the record. You also executive produced and directed the new PBS series, Tiny Time Travel. Could you kind of talk a bit about that and kind of what that's about?
Yeah, sure. So that's yet another show with Tim McEwen. It's a live action show. It's for kids 5 to 8. And the premise is that these two best friends, invented a time machine, but it can only go backwards and forwards a tiny bit. So if you messed up your lunch order and you want to do over, or you forgot your friend's birthday, you can go back a couple of hours and wish your friend a happy birthday, or try to, make up for what you forgot, or if you ordered something and the food came out wrong, then you can have a redo there too. And basically it's a social communication show. So it's all about using the right words to convey the right meaning, reading body language, what they call theory of mind, which is like, what is the person I'm talking to thinking? And am I just talking and not thinking about them at all? And it's this really fun show that we produced for PBS Kids. It's on their streaming platform and on their YouTube channel and all their digital channels. And it's so much fun. And for me, it was really an opportunity to work for a slightly older audience, to do straight live action without puppets. That can be very freeing too. All of a sudden, you're like, I could do a wide shot, because that's hard with puppets. Unless you got Big Bird, then you're good.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know them Kathy Kim actually kind of got to be be a part of that series too.
Yes.
Which is
Yeah,
really
no, so
cool.
Kathy is so great, and we've been working together for years now. And by the way, her character Ji Young is incredible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was involved with that special that Ellen Muraoka directed. But anyway, yes, she plays one of the kids' aunts, and she's so funny because when we see her the first time, she's reading this book that's titled How to Be a Good Aunt, which was just a funny joke that Tim came up with.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's great. So since we're about to close to wrap things up, can you share any projects you're currently working on?
Well, I'm always developing stuff, but nothing I can really report on right now. We are in post-production on new episodes of The Pigeon Explains, so those will be coming out soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're in conversations for additional episodes of Tiny Time Travel as well. And then the thing, this was a new experience for me this year, but Sesame Workshop does a big gala every year, which is
Yes.
kind of a fundraising thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I got
Yep.
to direct the live show for them. And
Hmm.
so we had, we have the Muppets, we have Big Bird, we have Elmo, we have Grover, but we also have Leslie Odom Jr. is the host of the whole evening. They're singing. John Oliver comes on to do a live auction. Andra Day was our musical guest. And then we were honoring Shonda Rhimes, and Oprah Winfrey gave her the award.
Oh, yes.
So that was,
Yes, I saw that. I saw the
yeah,
I
yeah,
saw, I
picture.
yeah.
saw it. That was
Sesame Muppets
amazing.
with her oh my, that was so great.
Yeah, it's like Elmo, Rosita,
And Telly,
Abby,
yeah.
Kelly was
Ernie.
there.
it
Yeah.
was
Um,
beautiful. It was
Oh my God, I
beautiful.
have to tell you this story. We did this bit when John Oliver's doing the auction. Marty came out all dressed in black and put Slimy on John's shoulder. And
Oh,
Oh,
bit where
oh,
where John Oliver's talking to Slimy, and then of course he realizes Marty's standing right there because it's just a theater stage, and they
oh
had
my
such a funny
gosh.
exchange. Marty was so funny, and John was so into it. We had also done there was a skit leading into it where we have there's these baby Bert and Ernie's. I don't know if you've
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I
oh
think
yeah.
so.
baby
Right.
Bert and Ernie come out, and Leslie's like, to Abby, to Leslie Carrara, he's like, "Why did you make them babies?" And she's like, "Oh, I thought, we're helping kids. You wanted a visual. I also turned John Oliver into a baby." And then this tiny little baby in a suit with John Oliver's glasses comes out, and it was so funny. And John loved it, by the way. And Ryan
Oh
Dillon,
my
Ryan Dillon
gosh.
played the baby. It was so funny. It was incredibly,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, yeah.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
and for the
terrific.
encore at the end of the show, we do a big rendition of "Sing," and John
Hmm.
Oliver came out
Yes.
with the baby puppet of himself,
Oh my
just
god.
singing along. It was the best. It was very,
That's
very.
great. Oh, that's really wonderful. Yeah, I I loved seeing the stuff from the gala this year. Like, and there was a lot of it too. It's really cool, how that happens every year. It really is just wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. No, thank you. I'm glad you think so. It's a wonderful experience. It was
I
my
bet.
first time directing it, and I was taking over from Ken Diego. And so I was I was nervous, but it was so much fun at the end of the day. We really had a blast.
Absolutely.
That's
So,
wonderful.
so to wrap this up, so this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how do you define nostalgia?
Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, when I think of nostalgia, I think of childhood things that bring me joy. And certainly, like The Muppet Show is way up there on the nostalgia uh, meter for me. I love that show. And, but I think it's also nostalgia should inspire your current creative work, like I think it's so fun to look back and to geek out on some old things. And but I also think nostalgia should be like something that helps you look towards the future and gives you hope.
Absolutely, great words to end on.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this was fun. Great meeting you. Glad we were
Yes.
able to make this happen.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
thanks so much. I enjoyed
yeah,
it.
of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It means a lot. Thank you so much for what you've done. For what you've done. What you're doing as a part of our lives. Thanks. It means a lot for you taking time to be part of this and keep up with what you're doing now. I cannot wait what's next in store with especially more projects you're currently doing with Pigeon Explains and Time Travel and other things as well. So
And
very
of
looking
course,
forward to more.
Sesame.
Of
Oh,
course.
yes.
Of course. All right.
Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yes. Enjoy the rest of your day,
Yes,
Ben.
thank you.
all right. Take care. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Take care, Ben. Bye. Thanks again.
It's goodbye from us as well. We absolutely enjoyed our time speaking with Ben Lehmann. Links to his website and social media will be in the description down below for anyone who wants to check out his work or connect with him. But it's goodbye from us as well. Keep on the lookout for more wonderful interviews coming your way. And as always, what do we say, Jake?
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Take care. Bye.
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 Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode. Be sure to follow Jake and the Happy Nostalgia team on social media, check out our website, and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.